Okay, I think we can get started for the benefit of everyone who has joined on time. So, good evening to everyone who has joined today. And I'm going to briefly introduce myself before we get into the session. I'm Jennifer Berkmans, and I work as the general manager with the US placements team at Miles. So today we're going to be talking about the shortage of accountants in the US, right? So we will discuss a little bit on why there is a shortage of accountants and how exactly is Miles working towards solving that shortage. So if you want to think about why there is a shortage of accountants and it's become more widespread or spoken about in the last couple of years, the reason is that everyone who is graduating from high school in the US would like to move into a more tech-related job or pursue a career more in data science, data analytics, AI and machine learning. When they think about accounting, they don't think it's very interesting, hence they choose not to go for that as a career. And now that everyone's coming, schools are starting to see that there is a shortage or there is a drop in enrollments for the accounting program. And so this has again led to the fact that universities across the US have had to shut down programs because they don't have enough number of candidates enrolling. Secondly, because there are not many people pursuing accounting, especially masters in accounting, public accounting firms in the US are not able to find the right talent for their companies or firms, right? So the huge shortage is solely because of the fact that for busy season, you work long hours, you want to do something more into the digital space or go into AI. So what we saw is that there's a lot of people here in India, a lot of accountants here in India who have been wanting or waiting for an opportunity like this, right? It's not been easy to move from India to the US previously. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that was not possible or not easy. So before we move into Miles US pathway, what exactly has been happening in the last few years with regard to the shortage of accountants, I would like to play a quick video for you.
The global economy is in crisis. There's a huge accountant shortage, and America wants you.
There are 17% fewer accountants employed.
300,000 accountants and auditors leave the profession. So let me get this straight. We're currently short on eggs, data, and accountants.
Miles has cracked the puzzle for Indian accountants to work in the U.S. for 3 years. Become a flag bearer for Indian accounting talent as you live the great American dream.
So to come back to this, it hasn't been new. It's been there for a few years now. And they expect that this shortage is only going to keep growing if it's not addressed at the right time. So if you look at the stats that's been issued by the Bureau of Labor, the statistics is that 126,000 jobs are available year on year for accountants and auditors. But every year, the number of accounting graduates has only been around 72,000 or 73,000. What Miles is trying to do is fill this delta of 53,000 or solve the shortage for this 53,000 job openings that are available every single year for the accountants. Okay, so this is the numbers that you would like to keep in mind. How exactly did Miles crack the puzzle for Indian accountants to work in the US? I'm sure many of you who are attending this session have family or friends who have moved from India to the US to pursue a master's. Most of them, if not all, would have been for the science industry, right? They would have gone there to do a master's in engineering or computer science and so on. So typically that happens because the masters that come from an engineering school in the US is a STEM designated course. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Okay. So when a course is STEM designated, they get 3-year work visa post their graduation. You are still on a student visa, but you get the work eligibility. So this is the typical pathway that engineering or techies follow. They complete BTech in India. They pursue MS in computer science from a US university, which is typically for about 18 months. Post their graduation, they get a 3-year work opportunity, which is called the OPT, Optional Practical Training. And this is an extended OPT. And they have the ability to work in the US after completing their master's for a period of 3 years. Beyond 3 years, if the employer that they're working with chooses to do the H-1B, then they go in that route, have a nomination. And if it does get picked up in the lottery, then they will be able to work for an extended period of 6 years. After that, they move back to India in a managerial position and continue their career. This has typically been the path for a techie. Now, we saw this that if we are able to convert a master's in accounting program from non-STEM to STEM, we will be able to achieve the same thing for accountants as well. So typically a master's in accounting works is for a 9 to 12 month period, post which you get 12 months to work in the US. Of course, with the amount of investment that you make, this doesn't seem very lucrative, or it doesn't seem viable to work just for 1 year in the US. So what happened is we integrated business analytics into the Masters in Accounting programs. We worked and partnered with universities across the US. By integrating business analytics into the Masters in Accounting, we have made the Masters in Accounting program taken it from a non-STEM certified course to a STEM certified course. When you integrate business analytics, you are going to be doing courses on Python, Power BI, Tableau, Data Studio, R, and so on. Because of all of this, the T of STEM, technology is taken care of, and now the MS Accounting is also a STEM certified course. What does this do? Accountants can now get a 3-year work permit, just like techies do post their graduation. So you see OPT and STEM on the right-hand side. We already have discussed STEM. OPT is optional practical training. On this OPT is what you will be having for you to work in the US post your graduation. So it's a full-time opportunity, and you will be working in the offices in US, but it's called as optional practical training. This has to be in your field of study. Okay, so this is OPT and STEM. What exactly, or who are the parties involved when it comes to the Miles US pathway specifically? Number one is going to be Indian accountants. Indian accountants are all of you present here and who've been wanting to have that opportunity to move to the US, have an exposure globally. Second is US universities. As we already discussed, these universities have not been able to get good number of enrollments for their Masters in Accounting program for reasons that we spoke about in the introduction. Third is public accounting firms. Without the advanced knowledge, it's difficult for the public accounting firm to find the right talent. If you look at a master's in accounting program, typically a bachelor's in accounting student in the US, and I'm talking about a domestic candidate, when they finish their bachelor's degree, they move on to do a master's in accounting program because a bachelor's in the US is for 120 credits. A CPA requires 120 credits to sit for the exam, but to get the license, you need 150 credits. This master's in accounting gives you the 30 credits you require to reach the 150. Now, not only are students not going for a master's in accounting program, but they're not interested in pursuing CPA either, right? So if I'm not interested in doing that, I'm not going to pursue a master's in accounting and spend all that money. So before we move into placements in just a bit, I will show a little bit more about the university side. For the academic year 2023-24, we had about 400 plus students who moved from India to the US. And academic year 24-25, we are expecting more than 1,000 students to move for the Masters in Accounting program. We started off a pilot batch of fall 2022 was only with one school, which later grew to 13. And for the fall of 2024, we have already partnered with about 25 to 30 schools. And we are expanding as we go. And we are not concentrated on a specific geographical location. It is spread across the US. One of the biggest concerns that students have, especially when we talk to them and tell them about the Masters in Accounting and having to pursue a CPA, is that we are doing two separate things and in a span of 9 to 12 months, right? Like I said, MS Accounting was done by domestic candidates in the US before, Indian accountants moved to the US. It was being done by domestic candidates to pursue that extra 30 credits and get to the CPA licensure requirements. Because of this, the entire MS Accounting curriculum is built in such a way that it correlates completely to a certain extent with the CPA syllabus or the CPA curriculum. So the courses that you take in your MS Accounting will be portions of the courses or the subjects that you read in your CPA as well. Okay, 70% is going to be accounting and 30% is analytics. And only because of this analytics portion have we been able to get the STEM certification. What is very unique about the Miles US pathway? Now, typically a master's degree in the US is for 30 credits, right? And when it's coming from a business school, it's for about 9 to 12 months. That's the duration. Now, the entire 30 credits has been split into two. 30% and 70%. Okay, so 30%, which is 9 credits of the 30 credits, will be pursued here in India itself. Okay, 30% is in India at JAGSOM. It's Jagdish Seth School of Management. You will do it online and get these 9 credits transferred from India to the US university from whom you get the offer letter. By doing this, it leads to a flat reduction of the university fees by 30%. Reason being, you are going to pay this amount in INR as opposed to USD if you were to do it in the US itself. Okay, so first, number one is you save that 30% in cost. Number two, 30 credit courses in the US is not very easy to complete, right? It's a lot of research, it's a lot of work that you will have to put in. By finishing 9 credits here in India and having to do only 21 credits in the US, you now have the ability to have that extra time to pursue your CPA. Apart from the 30% course reduction, because of doing this online 9 credits with JAGSOM, you also have an additional scholarship of up to 40%. Okay, and we are able to achieve this for all the Miles candidates because we send in batches of 30 to 60. We don't send 1 or 2 candidates to each university. It goes in batches. To top it all off, we also have a waiver, which is Miles candidates do not have to take the GRE, GMAT, or the IELTS TOEFL. Now, those of you who have already done some research on business schools in the US, who have tried to understand what requirements are there from business schools, the number one requirement is an aptitude test, which is the GRE and the GMAT, and English test as well, which is IELTS and TOEFL. But if you go through the Miles pathway and you are starting the course here in India, you will not have to do these 2 exams, which again leads to huge savings in time as well as money. Okay, so this is one of the biggest unique propositions of doing the Miles US pathway. Currently, we have started with taking applications or started initiating applications with US universities for the Spring 2025 cohort. Spring 2025 is a January intake. So the entire university application process is happening right now. And universities have already started issuing their offer letters. So the process is ongoing. Once you get the university offer letter, you will have to show the university that you have the financial ability to sustain yourself in terms of cost of living as well as education, which is your tuition fees. Once you show this, the school will issue something called the I-20. The I-20 is a crucial document for your US student F1 visa. So the US student visa is called an F1 visa. To initiate this application, you need the I-20. The number on the I-20 called the service ID is required for your US visa. This happens during the month of August and September. And then by Jan of 2025 is when you will be leaving or reaching the US to pursue your 9 credits, right? Between July 2024 and Jan of 2025, you are pursuing your 9 credits with the AACSB accredited JAGSOM and completing the 9 credits and taking the exam. Jan 2025, you start your MS Accounting program, and by December 2025, you will complete and graduate from your MS Accounting. During this period of 12 months, you are also pursuing your CPA. December 2025 is when you graduate and start your OPT, right? Your OPT is the optional practical training we spoke about. Now, the breakup of the investment that you will be making if you were to choose the Miles US pathway. Now, the first step is going to be for you to enroll for the Miles US pathway, which is at $250, which is approximately 20,000 rupees. This is not covered under the loan, and this has to be self-paid. Step number 2 is going to be pursuing the 9 credits here in India with JAGSOM. That's around $9,900. Okay, this is covered under any education loan that you will be taking. The next step, which is receiving I-20 and applying for the US F1 visa, the cost of which is estimated to be $2,000 or around $2,000, is again self-paid. This is not covered under any loan. Step 4, as we discussed earlier, CPA also becomes a very, very crucial part of pursuing the Miles US pathway. So CPA program overall cost is $2,300, and this is covered under a US loan, under the education loan. The next is going to be pursuing your 21 credits at the US university. So your MS accounting could range from 15,000 to 30,000. The reason this is a range it is because each university has a different tuition fee structure. So it's not a definite amount, and it's a range of 15 to 30,000. Excuse me. The last is going to be staying in the US, which is your cost of living, which is approximately going to be $10,000. And we take a conservative approach because you will be going in a group, right? So you will not be, our assumption is you are not going to be taking a house to yourself, and you will be living with other people who are traveling with you. So that's going to be the last step and the breakup of the 45,000. I'll also talk about the return on the investment, right? We talk about the Miles US pathway specifically with the starting salary. Once you graduate, you get a job and you'll have a starting salary of $60,000. Over a period of 3 years, you're going to have $180,000, from which the 43,000, that is your loan amount, gets deducted. The interest on the loan, 13,000. Your taxes while living there for 3 years, about 20,000. And your cost of living for the 3 years at around $54,000. So at the end, you have an approximate savings of about $50,000. What is my investment? Your investment is going to be the 1 year of study in the US. Monetarily, your investment is around 37 lakhs, which is 2 lakhs out of pocket and 35 lakhs the loan that you'll be taking. The return on this investment is going to be 3 years of OPT on student F1 visa and the salary of about 50 lakhs per year, which is 1.5 crores over a period of 3 years. And this amount is going to be used to repay your student loan. So this is our class of fall 2023 who graduated in May of 2024 and have started working, and some of them will be starting in months of end of July, beginning of August as well. So I'll quickly play a video of our alumni.
So today I'm graduating.
Class of 2024.
That moment was truly brilliant. Super excited. I mean, it's like dream come true. I'm living true American dream.
What are you most excited about?
Knowledge. To have a job in hand while I graduate, it's just magical, man. Working as an audit associate in New York, it has been life-changing for me.
Improvement to be able to get a job, which is not something that I hear of. Coming here itself is the biggest thing, and then getting job is like, I made it.
And just believe in yourself and the Miles team. Now that I'm living this dream, I'm super excited, and thanks to Miles.
So that's our alumni who graduated in May of 2024. And before I move into the segment of talking about corporate relations and how exactly that works, I would like to show you a video about what the leaders, the industry leaders in the US say about the shortage of accountants.
A very, very warm welcome to our third placement drive today in collaboration with BDO Alliance.
There's somewhere between 40 to 50% shortage of students graduating from higher education.
All of our alliance firms are trying to figure out how to deal with the talent shortage we have here in the US.
We've been very impressed with the platform that Miles has created.
So the candidates have been impressive. The process has been pretty seamless.
We need resources. We need people to help build our practice.
We are looking for eager individuals, eager to learn, eager to work, eager to add an impact. We have our own in-staff learning and development team who focuses on building out an actual program for you.
I think that there is a lot of opportunity. I think there's not one firm probably on here that doesn't think about capacity needs every single day.
I'm also humbled to present to such a large group of truly talented people.
Thank you again to you and Miles Education. Truly, we've enjoyed getting to know you.
So coming back, there is a team there in the US that attends conferences across the US to talk more about the solution that Miles is bringing to the table to solve the shortage of accountants, right? This has been happening for so many years, and they've been trying to look for talent, which is almost impossible for them. And now we've been making it possible. And I want to quickly go through a few profiles on LinkedIn that I think everyone present here should follow. Again, we have Miles Talent Hub on LinkedIn, where we talk about the different activities that is happening there in the US and the conferences that we attend, the different locations that we go to and talk about the solution. So we are very widespread there in the US. It's not specific to a location, whether it comes to university or corporate relations. This has been our strategy. So all of our corporate relations team, they all attend conferences at different parts. Again, in August, they will be starting off. And you will also see the collaborations that we've done with state CPA societies, right? So we address both universities and corporates in different states. That's how we collaborate with societies and do that. You can follow Chandrasekhar Nagarajan, who is the Senior Vice President of Corporate Relations here at Miles. He posts every single time there is a conference that he attends, the different industry leaders that he meets, it's all being posted. So following him will give you a better idea of what's actually happening on the ground. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about when it comes to corporate relations is the US works specifically in alliances. Okay, so it's not just one firm, but we work with alliances, which is about 30, 40 public accounting firms coming together, forming an alliance to address different needs of the industry. Now, we are a part of Moore America. We are part of BDO Alliance, RSM Alliance, GGI, LEA Alliance. So there are different alliances that we are part of. Alenial Global, which is the second largest global accounting alliance, we are a part of that, and we have already had a lot of firms from these alliances hire our candidates from the fall 2023 cohort. So for further information on more of what exactly happens, you can follow Chandu, you can follow Miles Talent Hub, follow Varun Jain. You'll understand more about what's happening on the ground. Moving on to the last section of the session today, what happens after 3 years? So we've been talking so much about graduating and working for a period of 3 years after the graduation, right? Now, this 3 years that we spoke about is when you will still be on an F1 student visa. After the 3 years, plan A for us is returning back to India, okay? Returning back to India after 3 years of on-site experience. You have your CPA designation, the US Masters, and your savings. What we do once you move back to India is we work with you to either seek alternative job opportunities in India, or you continue working as a remote resource for the same firm that you worked in the US. For example, you work for firm A in the US, and after 3 years, you are coming back to India. You will continue to work for the same firm, but you will be a remote resource at this point. Okay, now once you come back to India, your estimated cost of earning is going to be at 20 lakhs per annum. Plan B is the H-1B visa sponsorship. So H-1B visa sponsorship is completely at the discretion of the employer. Miles has no role to play here, okay? And even if the employer were to nominate you for the H-1B visa, it is subject to an annual cap of 85,000 H-1Bs through a lottery system. Now, this 85,000 is broken down into two pools. 65,000 is the regular category and 20,000 for the advanced category. So because you will all be pursuing a master's degree, everyone is eligible for the advanced category as well as the regular category. But this is, again, it's at the discretion of the employer based on your performance, whether they, they really like how you've been performing and want to keep you in the long term. So that's at the discretion of the employer. And number two, even if the company were to nominate you, it does go through a lottery and then it has to be picked. So I'll address a few questions that we generally get during this webinar sessions. Number one is, what is it and how do we, can we do a part-time job while we are pursuing the master's degree? The answer is you can, but it has to be on campus and it can only be for a period of 20 hours a week. Okay, so you can't exceed 20 hours when your classes are ongoing. When the classes are not in session, meaning you are on a summer break and you don't have any classes, at that point in time, you can work for 40 hours a week. Okay, but all of this has to be on campus. You cannot work off campus while you're pursuing your master's degree. Although CPA is not a mandatory thing from the firm's perspective, we at Miles are very, very strong, and we strongly advise that every single candidate who wants to pursue an MS accounting in the US has to pursue a CPA. It's even better if you complete 2 to 3 papers before you move to the US. And the reason is, again, to differentiate yourself from candidates who are there, who are present in the US. To differentiate yourself as an international candidate, CPA becomes the golden ticket for you to land a job in the US. Again, CMA is something a lot of candidates do. It's still a very valued professional certification. But when you are to look at it, you will eventually have a job in a public accounting firm. So when you're working at a public accounting firm, the expectation of that firm is going to be that at some point you will have your CPA in hand. Okay, so think of how chartered accounting firms work here in India, right? If you enter and want a job with a CA firm, their question will be if you are pursuing CA or if you have completed it. It doesn't matter whether you're a cost accountant or anything else, but the CA becomes the most sought after degree that they are looking for. It's exactly the same. Although we talk about this work being optional practical training, it's a full-time work position and it's allowed only post your graduation. Full-time cannot be done before you graduate. Any other questions that you have, feel free to reach out to the team. You can get in touch with them. You can get in touch with all of us on LinkedIn as well to understand more about what needs to be done from your end. To check your eligibility, we have an expert university team who will check your eligibility and then start the process of applying to universities in the US. One other very important thing that I wanted to mention here is when we talk about jobs in the US, communication and being a good cultural fit is going to be of the utmost concern to public accounting firms. Okay, so even though you bring the right knowledge, you have experience, even if you have experience, if you are not able to mingle with your team members or don't know how to appropriately talk to the client, that will be a concern to the firms that are recruiting you. So by default, the communication is number one. Number two is going to be whether you will be a good cultural fit. And this, you will have to get involved in multiple activities on campus while you're pursuing your master's to understand the culture better, mingle with people from different countries, from different ethnicities. And that's the reason you're moving halfway across the world. So these things become very, very important for finding jobs in the US. But with that, I would like to conclude the session and say, if there's anything else that you want to discuss, want to know more about, please reach out to the Miles team and they will be more than happy to answer all your questions and get you started on the Miles US pathway. So thank you all so much for being here on this Saturday evening, and we wish you all the best.